Okay, so we are set. I think everybody should see our screen.
Okay, bonding time is over.
Okay, but I don't know if we can go to. Okay, here. Oh, a little spoiler. Okay.
Okay, so hello everyone. Welcome to Moosend headquarters. We gathered here today, I've always wanted to say this, to explore GDPR basics from the scope of email marketeers.
Shouldn't we introduce ourselves first?
Yeah, you're right. So this is John.
And this is Ines.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
We're very excited to be discussing this amazing opportunity with all of you.
Amazing opportunity?
Yep, you heard that right. This is an amazing opportunity for all of us who have been working our stilettos off, striving to come up with more, cooler, better, faster, more creative content, get it out there and share it with our subscribers. So all of us who have been right all the way are at no risk. Purchase lists, I'm looking at you. This is our moment to shine.
Okay, so let's start from the basics. So what GDPR stands for? Okay. GDPR stands for General Data Protection Regulation. Okay. And it comes in effect in May 25th of this year. Okay. So this is the latest that all businesses should be GDPR compliant by then.
All right, fair.
Okay.
So why is it making headlines now then?
Okay, GDPR revolves around personal data. And we all know that personal data is a hot topic right now. So the first thing we need to do is let's see, what is personal data? And by personal data, we mean that any piece of information that can be lead to the direct or indirect identification of a specific individual. Okay. So let's give some examples of personal data. Let's say the name of an individual, the home address, the email address, bank details, medical information, religious information, even online identifiers like IP addresses or cookies can be considered personal data under GDPR. By an end, anything that relates to one's personal, professional, or public life is considered personal data.
All right. So now that we got this out of the way, let's delve deeper into why is personal data so important, okay? So A, because it's personal. I know, thank you, Captain Obvious. Personal data being personal is all about keeping it that way. So it is in every individual's possession, and that's all the fun. I mean, therefore, this data should not change hands unless the individual specifically desires to. And B, because personal data is value added to communication of companies. So more and accurate personal data would go with better, more personalized marketing campaigns, ergo better marketing, ergo more conversions, ergo profit. And it is true that us marketeers love the fact that we can get to know our audiences a little bit better, therefore serve it better. So it's only natural that at times we might be tempted to go that extra mile, which really is overstep our boundaries by not letting go of our opted out subscribers and holding on to that information on our logs. So this is generating a situation that must be catered to.
Yes, I agree.
Okay, so what's the challenge right now?
Okay, the challenge right now, it's that over the past 20 years, I think the digital landscape has changed dramatically. Yeah. People nowadays share a lot of personal data over, let's say, social media, over mobile device apps. You're right. You know. Yeah. And the current directive in place, in effect right now, the directive of 95, is, let's say, outdated. And it's just a directive, so it can be opt out. Yeah. Okay. And there are different privacy laws across the European countries. And that's a problem that makes it easier for businesses to exploit personal data.
Oh, yes, you're right.
Okay. So how GDPR will change things? GDPR, first of all, is a regulation. So it can't be opt out of. It harmonizes all these different laws of the European countries. And also it, let's say, empowers users over their personal data, putting them in charge, in complete control over who accesses them and for what reason. Okay. Okay. It also requires business to, let's say, rethink the way they see data privacy, and it expects them to bake data privacy settings into their product by default, and also to improve their ways of requesting permission to use personal data. So there is no room for exploiting personal data under GDPR.
Okay, that's good. So let's see who is affected then. Okay, so GDPR sees the following categories: data subject, data controller, and data processor. So stick with me, there's an example. So to ease everyone into this concept, let's consider this. Jane Doe is a European citizen and say she wants to download a content upgrade from acme.com. Now, acme.com is an EU-based company. Now, Jane Doe submits her full name and email address to download the content upgrade and also checks the box that specifically states that she wishes to be contacted further and receive communication from acme.com. Now, acme.com uses Moosend as their email marketing and automations platform. They have integrated their mailing lists with their Moosend account. So Moosend stores and processes Jane Doe's data for acme.com. Jane Doe is the data subject, which means that she is the owner of the personal data. Acme.com is the data controller, which means that she determines the purpose, they determine the purpose for which and the way in which this data is to be processed. And Moosend is the data processor, which means that we handle, store, process, and monitor the personal data. Now, Jane Doe lives in the EU. Acme.com is based in the EU. So is Acme.com affected by the GDPR? Yes, because the data processing involves European citizens' data. Okay?
Okay.
So let's consider another example.
Okay.
Let's consider an example where Jane Doe still lives in the EU, but Acme.com is based in the US. Is Acme.com affected by the GDPR? Yes, because the data processing involves European citizens' personal data. Now, despite the fact that Acme.com is a US-based company, they still have to be GDPR compliant because they are processing a European citizen's personal data. Have I said it like 4 times right now? Okay.
Yes,
so since Moosend is GDPR compliant and stores all personal data within the EU, Acme.com has one thing less to worry about.
Good choice.
Good choice.
Okay.
So bottom line, whether the data controller, that is the business, that is you, is based in the EU or outside, if the personal data belongs to a European citizen, then the data controller's practices must be GDPR compliant. The same goes for the data processor. For example, the email service provider that acme.com is doing business with. For all European clients of acme.com, their data processor and third parties processing data must be GDPR compliant. Practically, you must choose GDPR compliant partners to be GDPR compliant. Easy.
It's always the best way to go. Okay, so let's have a look on some key points that everybody should take on their roadmap to GDPR compliance. First of all is the consent. Second is the rights of the users over their personal data. Third is the security of the data.
Okay.
Fourth is the sharing with third parties and data transferring outside the EU.
Okay.
And also it's the data protection officer if they need to appoint one.
Or not.
Okay. So consent, despite everyone, what everyone thinks, consent is no new kid on the block. Let's say. Okay, consent was always an obligation regarding processing and asking and processing personal data.
Yeah.
Okay. What GDPR brings to the table now is that it sets specifically how consent must be asked and how. And it also adds the obligation to the controllers to be able to prove how and when they got consent, okay, to process the data. So let's say GDPR asks for consent to be given by a statement or affirmative action by the user. So
that would be
no pre-check boxes under GDPR. Okay, we must have an affirmative action.
Like a conscious choice that I'm clicking
yes,
that button.
I'm clicking that
Okay,
button.
good.
So also, it must be given freely. So there must be no penalty for refusing, for a user for refusing consent. And that means that, let's say, a company can't refuse the provision of a service to an individual if they refuse to opt out from any marketing updates.
Okay.
Consent must be separate from other matters. Okay. And it must be easy for the individual to withdraw at any time their loss and a subscribe link. That is wrong here, but it's okay. Controllers must be able, as we said, to prove how and when consent was given. Okay. So another huge aspect of GDPR is the rights that users have over their personal data. Okay,
how many rights are there?
There are 7 huge categories of rights.
So the main categories are 7?
Yes, the main, okay. And it's the obligation of the control of you guys to inform your users for these rights and provide a way for them to exercise them, okay? So the first right is the right to be informed. All your users must be well informed of why you're asking their personal data and what reason will you process.
Okay, I can do that.
Okay, an example, a plain example of how you can exercise this right is, let's say, a plain and simple newsletter form followed by a confirmation email that will also include the reason of communication. Okay, the email needs to also state the reason.
Okay.
Okay. So the next is the right of access. Okay. The right of access is that all users must have a way to access all personal data that they are sharing with an organization, with you. A simple example of how, let's say, they can exercise this right is if you give them access to their user profile on your platform, or if it's not possible, have an email where they can contact you and ask it from you.
Okay.
Okay. The next is the right to rectification. So all your users must have a way to correct their personal data if they think that they are not correct, they're incorrect. An easy way, as you can understand, to do that, again, if you give them a way to edit their user profile on your platform, or if that's not possible, you can have, again, an email where they can contact you and ask you to correct it for them.
Oh.
Okay, the right to data portability. Users must have a way to export all their personal data in an easy-to-read format. Okay, so an example would be an export key on their user profile. Again, that will generate a CSV or a PDF file.
Okay, these are very common.
Yes, it's very common, so they are GDPR compliant.
Okay.
So that's a way they can exercise this, right?
Okay.
Okay. The right to erase, or else known right to be forgotten. It's very important, right? So users must have a way to opt out from receiving any communication from you. A simple example is to include an unsubscribe link in every email that we send to the users.
Okay, that's easy. We can do that.
Okay. And finally, it's the right to restrict processing or object processing. So users must have a way to temporarily restrict from processing their data. An example would be, let's say, if they think their data are incorrect, they need to ask you to stop processing this data until they correct them, and then you can again reactivate the profile. The example, let's say, should be if they could have a button that would make their account inactive. And when their account is inactive, we stop all communications to the users, and when it's active again, we start processing data. We start again. Okay.
Got that. Okay. So now we would move on to data security. And you know what, John? We really cannot overstate the importance of cooperating with data processors who take data security very seriously.
I agree.
No, actually, I think that I can overstate the importance. Yeah. Okay. So no data security is like the Darth Vader to your Luke Skywalker.
They're dead?
Okay, no. So no data security is like Darth Vader to their, I don't know, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Okay, so it's very important.
Yes.
It's really very important. For those who didn't catch that, that was very, very important. So how do we achieve data security?
Yes.
A, these are some recommendations. Adopt high security measures within your organization. B, give access to the absolute necessary personnel. C, select only third parties that share the same high security standards as you. For example, they could be ISO 27001 certified, which, by the way, is specifically designed for data security certification purposes. Nice one. And finally, put a process in place to notify supervisor authority and all affected parties when you realize that there's been a data privacy breach, which should take place within 72 hours.
Upon being aware of that breach.
Okay. All right. Good.
So another huge part of GDPR is the third parties and the data transfer outside the EU. Just to be clear here, I'm not, when I say data transfer outside the EU, I don't mean that, someone is selling data to another company.
Yeah.
But all companies, in order to provide their services, they use other companies, like, let's say, something that everybody should know. Google Analytics.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody is using Google Analytics. So in that case, you are sharing some data with
transferring data.
You're transferring data.
Yeah.
So under this scope, transferring, there is a lot of false information outside about this matter. Transferring personal data outside the EU is not illegal under GDPR. Okay, but transferring personal data outside the EU must be done only to third parties that they can provide the appropriate safeguards needed by the GDPR. And one example of these safeguards would be, let's say, the standard protection clauses adopted by the EU Commission.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
And it's the absolute obligation of the data controllers, you guys, to check if your data processor outside the EU meet these requirements. So in my opinion, the easiest way to go here under GDPR is to only use third parties that store data within the EU. And I mean, especially when we are talking to the third party emailing list, the data of the end users that are so sensitive.
Absolutely.
Okay, they should not be transferring outside the EU.
Okay, all right. So this would bring us to DPO, all right, the Data Protection Officer. And I have so many questions like, what is a DPO? And do I need to appoint one? Not me. Do our attendees need to appoint one? Does it have to be in-house or external? Could it be the owner of the company? Could it be one of our interns? I mean, they're nice guys. What is the DPO? Let's start there.
Okay, a lot of questions. I will try to answer them. So let's start first from what is a data protection officer, DPO. A data protection officer is the person, let's say, or organization responsible for overseeing all data protection related procedures and implement a data protection strategy compliant with the GDPR requirements.
Okay.
Okay, the first big question, let's say, is, do I need a DPO?
You are the DPO.
I am the DPO. Of course, we needed one.
Okay.
So you guys, you have to check if you need to appoint a DPO or not. GDPR sets 3 basic criteria, and if one of them is met by a company, then you need to appoint a DPO.
Okay.
The first one is if the processing of data is carried out by a public authority. The second one is if the core activity involves regular and systematic processing of data subjects on a large scale.
That would be us, right?
Yes,
that would be
fall
Moosend.
under this category.
That's us.
Yes.
Hi.
Okay. And the third one is if the core activities consist of processing sensitive data or data relating to criminal convictions or offenses.
Okay.
Okay. So these are 3 major categories. It's up to every business to decide if they meet one of them in order to appoint a DPO.
All right.
Okay. So, who should I appoint as a DPO if I need one? Okay, it's the next question. So, data protection officers can be either an employee of the company or a third party. That's depending actually from the size of the organization, from the needs of the organization. They need to decide that. But the DPO must have the following qualifications. Okay. First of all, of course, he needs to have a deep knowledge of all aspects of GDPR. Of course.
And do webinars?
Of course.
Okay.
It's a must.
Yeah.
The second is that they should not receive any instruction regarding their performance of their duties. Okay. They should not report to a direct supervisor, of course, other than the top management of the company. Here's a key point. They need to have full access to all necessary resources within the organization needed to complete their tasks. So as we can understand here, they need to be a senior, let's say, employee of the company, because he will have full access to sensitive data. Okay. They need, of course, to have the authority to investigate personal data-related operations within the organization. And finally, of course, there must not be a conflict, say, if they're within the organization, of their regular duties and the duties of DPO. Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Finally, let's talk about the tasks of
the DPO.
DPO. As we can assume, the basic task is the DPO has to ensure the GDPR compliance of all aspects of the organization. Okay. So he needs to ensure that
he or she.
They, of course.
Okay.
Let's say they.
All right.
They need to ensure that data subjects are well informed of their rights. Okay. They need to ensure that all employees handling personal data are aware of their obligation, responsibilities, to raise awareness about them. They need to give advice and ensure data protection compliance of the organization, cooperate to the data protection authority if needed. Actually, they serve as a key point of contact for this kind of matters.
Yeah.
Yes, for the company, for data protection related matters. Okay, so they should handle or advise the institution on how to handle data protection related complaints or requests.
Okay.
Okay.
Got that.
Is that clear?
Yep.
Okay.
Crystal clear.
Crystal clear.
So, you are the company DPO, but other than that, you are also the company CFO. So, would you like to share with us how did this whole DPO story start for you?
Yes. Okay. First of all, I was CFO of the company.
Yeah.
I didn't want to have anything to do with regarding to GDPR. But then they told me about the fines, and I said, "Oh God, I need to be in charge of this."
Give it to me. I'll do it.
I practically begged to be in charge of GDPR.
Yes.
Okay.
It worked.
It worked. Yes,
yeah.
As you can see. So I was in charge of a project called GDPR compliant of Moosend company. So I thought, what's the first thing I need to do? Okay, it's GDPR compliant. I need to know what GDPR is. So I read all articles of the regulation, and that gave me a pretty good idea of what GDPR is. And as I was reading those articles, I was keeping notes of which articles I thought at the time that would affect the company. Articles of the actual regulation, of course, I mean. And the first thing that I understood, right, that every company should do as a first step under GDPR is to map the flow of data within the organization.
Okay, what do you mean by data flow?
Okay, data flow, I mean they have to map who has access to which information, for what reason, and with whom within the organization or outside of it they share.
For example, who has access to, I don't know, who has the password
yes,
to...
the password, let's say,
I don't know, yeah.
Yes, okay, for a service, let's say.
Yeah.
Okay, and of course, if if we are sharing data, and again, I must say here that when I mean sharing data, I mean, let's say for business purposes, where you might share data with Google Analytics for analytics reason, or with, let's say, Intercom. Most of you might know Intercom for support reasons. Okay?
All of which are GDPR compliant either way, so we're good.
We have to map this flow of data within the organization and see where we should change this map.
Okay.
So one key thing we have to do is to level the access of data. Okay, so everybody should have access to only parts needed to complete their task, and only supervisor would have the authority to, let's say, give access or revoke access.
Okay.
Okay. The next thing we did is that I thought we should take security, let's take even above GDPR requirements. Okay. And we decided that we need to be ISO 27001
certified.
Yes, and we achieved that. It was a hard accomplishment, sorry, and we achieved that. And now we are ISO certified.
Yay!
Yeah, okay. The next step on the road to GDPR compliance was to check all these third parties that we mentioned before. Here we have a complex situation where we are also data controllers and data processors. Data processors, we are for the emailing list for our customers, for sending the emails, and there we never share emailing list with anybody. They stays within the organization, in our servers located in the EU, and never leave. Okay,
all right,
that's clear.
Yeah,
but as data controllers, and data controllers we mean for our clients, yes, we may share, let's say, account data of a customer with third parties, again, like Intercom for support, Google Analytics, etc. Okay, and we made sure that even we also store this data within the organization. We share part of it with these organizations, and we made sure that they are all well-known, well reputed, yes, and they provided us with the documents, all certification related to security. So we understood that they have the same high standards of security as we do. Okay, and that was crucial for us.
Yeah.
And the final step was to review our legal documents with our legal team, like our terms or our privacy policy, let's say, okay, and other legal documents. And it's there that our legal team advised us that we shouldn't appoint a DPO.
Yeah.
Okay. And what we said is that, okay, I had acquired all this knowledge from this journey to GDPR compliance with the company, and I didn't force my way in. Because you are looking at me.
Yeah, it looks like that. Yeah.
Okay. And we said, who's best for the job?
And we all pointed at you.
Of course.
Exactly the way it happened. Okay. Exactly. Yeah.
So that's how I was appointed as a DPO.
Okay. All right. Very interesting story. Thank you for sharing.
Okay. So I think now in because you are handling all our marketing communication and or our blog posts and say everything related to marketing campaigns, and I think it would be nice if you share with us the marketeer's point of view on GDPR.
All right, absolutely. So, well, at first, when I read about the GDPR, I was excited. Yeah.
Excited.
Yeah, I was excited. I was excited because as a consumer, I'm finally going to be empowered. Why? Because I'll no longer, starting May 25th, at least I can wait a few months more. Starting May 25th, I will no longer get unsolicited emails from random companies. I will no longer have to hit the spam button, unless there is another reason to. And
I'm with you.
And of course, I will not have to receive text messages from senders I cannot block on my smartphone. So I will not be receiving any of these things. But then also as a marketeer, I saw my responsibility as part of the picture. So I saw my responsibility to educate myself and promote knowledge in the marketing community about GDPR compliance practices. All of the things that we learned and all of this information we had access to through our attorneys and all of this journey, I had to pass it on. So here's how marketeers are affected on email marketing and marketing automations level. Okay. So email marketing relies on lead generation, and that, my friends, relies on emails. So this is the way to go. By putting up content upgrades and other content, users are tempted to enter their email addresses. And you might say, well, what if they grab the content upgrade, but do not provide consent to be contacted further? Okay, so all of my work has gone to waste, right? No, because this is where your personal touch and high quality writing come into play. Because those who do check that box, not all of them will check that box for further communication, but those who do are your most engaged fans. And let's try to see the bigger picture here.
Yes, okay. What we repeatedly do, let's say, an excellence then is not an act, but is a habit.
Well said, Aristotle. And the bigger picture here is that we need to keep providing great content, and great content, providing great content needs to become a norm, a habit. And once users start coming across your content more and more, they will be running to your newsletter. I mean, for all of this, who's afraid of that little extra work, right? And before we move on to marketing automations, and for the purposes of clarity, let me just say that in the GDPR compliant email marketing world, there is no place for purchase lists. Yes. That and the dinosaurs are extinct. Okay, I'm glad we got that out of the question. Okay, now turning next to marketing automations, we come back to picking the right partners idea. Okay, for instance, when sending out marketing automation sequences and some of your users opt out of your emails, will they keep getting emails while this automation lasts? In other words, if you have set up an automation that is 10 emails long, okay, that's an email sequence of 10 emails, and they decide to opt out at number 3 because you lost them, because whatever, okay.
They're lost.
So, of course, exactly, you're a quick learner. So, at number 3, you must let go of them, okay? And a very good example of this would be cart abandonment emails, because cart abandonment, we know that cart abandonment emails work best in email sequences. So it's a better performance for your email campaign if it's made up of a series of, let's say, 3 or 4 emails rather than just a one-off reminder. So they need, the moment they opt out of this automation, they should be opted out altogether. Okay. So that being said, if your email marketing and automations partner has not prepared for this aspect, for instance, then they are not GDPR compliant, which makes you not GDPR compliant. Okay, so choose someone who is GDPR compliant, and then you can focus on rendering your business or more aspects of your business GDPR compliant. I think I will not be able to say GDPR compliant altogether again, ever.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's have a quick summary of things here. Again, what are the key factors that every business should attend, should focus on their roadmap to GDPR compliance? Okay. So you guys, make sure you get proper consent from your users. Make sure that you let them know of their rights over their personal data and have a way to exercise them. Take data security, let's say, put the bar really high. And raise the bar. Raise the bar. Yeah. Thank you very much. And
you're welcome.
Data security. Review your third parties and your sharing with sharing data with third parties.
Outside the EU.
If they are outside the EU, make sure you get the appropriate safeguards needed to do so. And of course, see if you need to appoint a DPO and if you do appoint the right person to help you on your GDPR compliant roadmap.
Okay.
Okay.
We can do that.
Mhm.
All right. So remember again, this is a huge opportunity. I mean, all your good marketing practices are now bearing fruit. And as a marketeer, upgrade your content marketing game, invested extra time in publishing white papers, guides, ebooks, and help bring digital communication up to par with face-to-face interaction through high-quality content. We're helping increase the quality of marketing in the community and promote knowledge and good practices. So raise the bar for email marketing content and drive change in the industry. On May 25th, marketeers who have been engaging in email marketing with scraped mailing lists or purchase mailing lists will not be able to get consent from their subscribers. Therefore, let's just say that they will be starting May 26th on a clean slate. But us whitehead marketeers who have been growing our mailing lists organically through content marketing and everything else, sharing case studies and all, we will be 10 steps ahead because we won't have to sweat to get consent because I like my puns. Okay, so if you're among those who may or may not have purchased some mailing lists, there's still time. There's still a lot of things that you can do in order to grow your list organically. And if you want to find out about email marketing best practices, we're not going anywhere. And keep in mind that GDPR is no hindrance to communicating. It's there to improve communication and improve user experience. And the best part, we have a unique opportunity to tap into a cleaner inbox. Yay! So do consult an attorney to help you with the legal procedure and ensure you're 100% covered.
Yes.
And if there is anything we can do to help, please feel free to contact us. Contact DPO at moosend.com and to ask your data security related questions. If you're not a Moosend user, I'm sorry, you're doomed. No, I'm kidding. Of course, you can contact us and sign up for a free account if you like, whatever. You can check us out. We're fabulous and all. And we look forward to receiving your questions if you have any. And that was fun.
Yes.
That was fun. There's a poll, there's a survey coming up on your screens. It would be nice if you'd like to take a second or two to answer it.
Please do.
Yeah. Do we have any questions for them?
No.
No? Okay, so we think we answered all of our questions to you. Okay.
Yes.
So it was nice talking to you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.